Good morning, my faithful viewers. My name is Joe, and I am a weapon of mass instruction. And today I am not sleeping. Yeah. So it is 4:30 in the morning, 04:30-ish. And I just got done reading an interesting book. It's called Hurtling Towards Oblivion. And for the most part, it turned out to be an interesting book, published in 1999. And basically it's a cultural analyst guy who, I haven't done any research on this guy, but he's a doctor, he's a cultural analyst, and he does stuff like that. And he basically came up with a concept that led him to believe, in 1999, mind you, that we are hurtling towards, literally, oblivion. We are hurtling towards an end of an age, he called it. He wanted to be optimistic, I guess, or at least not pessimistic. And pretty much his concept is this, that, humankind is constantly on a road of progress, and progress is proceeding at an exponential rate. So is differentiation, which is basically, or proliferation would be another way of calling it. Basically, all the products, ideas, technologies, all of that, everything that humankind does or makes is multiplying exponentially. And at the same time, he talks about fallenness, which is basically the inherent ability for things to go wrong. Or for a couple of his examples, like a toothpick is a great idea. Helps you to clean your teeth, but it could lead to gum disease. It could cause you to choke and die if you accidentally swallow it. That's fallenness. So all the good things out there still have a bad aspect to it. Now, he came out with a pretty good idea, I think, and it's a pretty good indicator of how things have been going from 1999 until now. 13 years after he published, I still remember how simple things seemed when I was still in high school back in 1999. 2000, that era, right before the whole 21st century started happening. Things seemed to be a lot slower back then. I can still remember when I didn't know what the internet was. I can still remember when CDs were first coming out. And I was the kid that had the cassette tape player. But whatever. You can see, just as a quick example right there, how things are exponentially progressing. And so basically he ends it with, I'm not going to say a prediction, but basically his assessment, which is, that all of these exponential increases in everything is going to lead to an overall collapse if we don't find a way to hit a limit or curb it or do something like that. And I'm going to share with you something that really hit me towards the end here. He says, within the context of the evidence presented in this book, there are four major issues that have the potential of bringing down the final curtain on the world system. War, weapons of mass destruction, the use of which is not limited to the context of a defined war, infectious pandemics, and eco-catastrophes. Each of these issues is affected by progress, profusion, irreversibility, exponentiality, and fallenness in the same way that a bonfire is affected by pine branches and gasoline. And that kind of hit me a little bit because, it kind of strikes a chord with all these conspiracy theories going on. And I know I love talking about that shit. It's a funny thing to talk about, especially with normal people who don't expect that to pop out of my mouth at any second. But I just thought about that. He brought in four things that could affect our future. War, well, that's pretty obvious. We've been, in America and across the world, we've been living under the fear of a new world war for a while now. Between the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, now the Syrian uprising, all the uprisings in the Middle East and Africa, all that stuff. Just war is everywhere. And you've got weapons of mass destruction. That's a no-brainer. They've been around since, the whole 20th century and even before. I'm not talking about just nuclear. You've got biological agents as well as chemical. So that whole NBC threat is still there. And it could come from any direction towards any direction. I'm not pointing fingers at any nation or group or anything like that. But you have to admit that is still out there, whether or not Bush actually thought there were WMDs in Iraq, or whether or not, there actually were at one point and have been smuggled out. That's besides the point. That's just one single case where the threat or the fear of this possibility, basically made people react, and I think personally in a bad way, honestly. I think there were ulterior motives for the war in Iraq, and I don't think he should have gone in the first place, but that wasn't my decision. Infectious pandemics. Well, there we go. There's a lot of stuff out there now that's resistant to not just penicillin, but all the other antibiotics out there, amoxicillin, all that stuff. And like the shit that they prescribe nowadays to cure some of this stuff, like these bacteria. Like for example, I have acne vulgaris, which is basically like uber acne. That's pretty much what it is. And they prescribed doxycycline. I did some research. It's actually very similar to the to the pill, which is funny. But it's basically a form of antibiotic. And it had some pretty serious side effects. It made me more prone to sunburn, and I suffered from mood swings, which is pretty bad because I already suffer from mood swings, but there we go. So there we go, infectious pandemics, with globalization, with the increase in mobility, this guy says, and it totally makes sense. It's something we've been thinking about for a while, and that people have been throwing at us in mainstream media and in the movies and stuff, the idea that if there was a new viral outbreak, there's a good chance that it could spread throughout most of the world very quickly and easily before we had a chance to react. And then finally, eco-catastrophes. Well, again, that's a no-brainer. There's the threat of global warming, and I'm not going to contest whether it's there or not, whether it's receding or what the case is, because we still don't know what the actual cycle of warming and cooling is supposed to be like, because this is the first chance we have of actually, really observing it firsthand, other than going through like carbon dating tests and all that scientific shit. So there we go. Eco-catastrophes. We're also looking at the idea of the world's food supply running short pretty quickly. Mainly, I think, due to the fact that they're using GMO crops, which apparently now, once you turn a field to GMO, it's GMO only. So genetically modified crops only. Now they're figuring out that it's impacting stuff like bees colonies and their pollinization, that the chemicals that they use for pesticides and the chemicals that they use for these GMO crops are now affecting these bee colonies, these beehives, and causing them to be unable to pollinate or reproduce effectively, to find their way, to navigate all that shit. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody basically once hypothesized that if the bees disappeared, there goes the world's ecology, because of the fact that they are so prolific in pollinization with a lot of different species of plant life, not just crops. So he had these 4 classifications here. Now, mind you, once I got to the last chapter, I found out that his solution was basically become Christian, and so that kind of threw me off a little bit. But I mean, that's just his worldview perspective. I know where he's coming from. He's not just saying be a good Christian, he's just saying be a good person, which is pretty much what I've been saying this whole time. So that kind of threw me for a loop. But you think about all these different conspiracy theories, the threat of war, the fear of war, that's everywhere. Weapons of mass destruction, again, that's everywhere. Infectious pandemics, whether the government might be seeding them in the population or getting ready to unleash the big one. You got eco-catastrophes. Again, GMO crops failing or intentionally failing, making it harder to find food, all that stuff. And I find it funny that he picked 4 classifications, not 3, not 5, not something like that. And I wondered why, so I said, okay, well, this guy's a Christian. What does it have to do with anything? Oh, eschatology. Let's look at the book of Revelation. We've got the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that this guy's talking about: war, death, pestilence, and famine right there. And that actually kind of ties into something I've been thinking about with all the holy texts and stuff, that there's a grain of truth in them, in that the predictions, while they might not be literally what's going to happen, they do point in a general direction of, here's what you're looking at, and this is probably what's going to cause all this shit to go down. So there we go. We got war, death, famine, and pestilence, and it's all staring us all right down, just like the barrel of a gun, in the modern era. And, one wrong move by anybody in power could set it off. It doesn't even have to be an intentional thing. It could just be one quick fuck up, and that's that. Poof, all gone. So that's kind of a downer, and I kind of monopolized your time here by talking about that. But I think it's a good book to read. Just might give you a couple of ideas there. Definitely gave me some ideas. Made me think about stuff a bit in a different light. I also, the other day, I went to Walmart at midnight, and this was pretty fucking hilarious. I went and picked up some goodies for my bug out bag. And I don't know why I decided to do this at midnight, but this is what I got. Firstly, machete for, I believe, $6 or so. There you go. There it is. It's looks to be a full 18 inches. Hang on a second. Yeah, about 18 inches. 18-inch blade. Machetes are good for a number of different things. You can chop stuff with it: wood, branches, vines, leaves, plant life. You could use it for self-defense if you had to. Just different stuff. So that's a good thing to have. I'm probably going to strap it onto the side somehow. So that's one thing. Got me a first aid kit. This was not terribly expensive. This was like $10. Comes in a nice little compact bag. And this one here, I mean, you can find them on all sorts of different sizes. This one here has several separate compartments. You fold it out and it's got different stuff. Band-aids, fucking medical tape, trauma bandages, a chem light glow stick for marking an evac zone or something like that. You could use it for antibiotics. There's different stuff like that. I plan on augmenting it a little bit as well with some other stuff I might pick up in the future. I'm going to throw my water purification tablets in here. And this isn't going to be the end-all be-all of first aid kits. It was there. It was cheap. The stuff in it is pretty useful for basic boo-boos. So I'm going to add stuff to it, and maybe someday I'll switch it to a bigger bag and whatever. So that's item number 2. Definitely a good thing to have, and it sure beats just having random medical stuff laying in the pack. Having it all in one spot is good. You could keep it on the outside of your pack so it's easy to get to. You don't want to have to dig through layers and layers of shit if somebody's bleeding out in front of you and you need to get that trauma pack on them or whatever. So there's that. I got 2 waterproof hooded ponchos. These are pretty cheap. They're like 88 cents each or something. It was ridiculous. It's basically just pieces of plastic, you put on yourself. The reason I got 2 of them is because, well, handy to have. They're cheap. They're probably not terribly durable, so like it could be very easy to rip through one, and there goes your waterproofing right there. So that was that. And then finally, I got me another multi-tool. And my brother and sister kind of gave me this idea. And it's the idea of redundancy, basically. You don't want to have just one of each item, if possible. You know, it would be no good if you had one multi-tool and then it broke. So I bought this other one to see, one, to test it out, see how it works. It looks pretty functional. It's got 12 different tools in it, you know, 3 different blades, a saw on one of them, several different screwdriver attachments, a can opener, and of course the ubiquitous pliers and wire cutters. So it looks actually to be a bit more durable than the fucking Gerber that I have. It's brand new, again relatively cheap. I think it was like, again, $5-6. But I think it was $5 or $6 well spent, because I could use this for a while, and if it breaks down, I still have the other one. And I do plan on getting myself a nice, decent Leatherman. You know, people talk about how they're just about indestructible, and I tend to agree. I've seen them do some pretty crazy stuff with that. Oh, so that's that. Again, redundancy is a good idea. Have multiple tools of certain kinds. Like I mentioned, multiple ways to start a fire. You're going to want multiple ways to defend yourself, which is why that machete is there. You know, in case I had to defend myself in some way, somehow, I couldn't reach for a gun, you know, or maybe I already had it out and then somebody pops out. There was one more item, and now this one is a little bit iffy. You may decide you don't want this in your system, in your bug out bag. I'm sure some people have already seen it. Oh wow, it's looking a little bit rickety. Well, let's unfold it and take a look. Again, this is another really cheap thing I got, and this is actually the most expensive out of all of them. I think this is like $14. It's a folding shovel, or what I used to like calling an e-tool. And pretty much the way it works is you would fold it out like this. You screw down this locking mechanism. There we go, it's nice and tight. And part of that screwing there will tighten it up over here. So now you can use it to dig. It's got a serrated edge over here, so you could use it to saw or even chop. And as you already saw, it folded up pretty compactly. So this is a pretty nice tool to have. You can set it to that front position. You can set it there we go. You can set it to this position as well, and you could use it to actually dig down deep, more like a pickaxe than a shovel at that point. So it's got multiple uses to it. And again, it's another thing that I could use to defend myself. Probably what I'll end up doing, personally, is I'll probably end up finding a way to keep it just unfolded all the time, strapped to the side of my pack. It's not too shiny. I would have liked matte black, but it's not too shiny. You know, it's not too noticeable. And here we go. So you can actually even fold out the handle right there. So one thing I used to do with my issued e-tool was I actually used it as a seat. I'd stick it like this with the handle folded out, and I would sit on it, and it held up pretty good that way, which is pretty funny. So that's what I got at Walmart. Again, pretty cheap prices, easy to find. You know, again, it's fucking Walmart. Dude, this is, you know, it's not something that's like uber expensive to where you don't want to use it, to where you don't want it to break. You know, if it breaks, then fine, whatever. You go out and get a new one unless it's the end of the days, or whatever the case may be. So there you go. That's pretty much what I got for you today. All right, there we go. It's all folded up again. This is something you want to watch out for. You hear that sound? You want to watch out for noise-producing gear. If you're out in the woods and you're trying to evade something or somebody that you don't want to be seen by, then this isn't something you might want to have. When it's folded up like that, make sure it's in a pocket where it's nice and tight, where if it shakes around, it's not going to make noise. But if it's sitting there loose, folded up like that, it's going to make noise, rattle around. Same thing with water. At any chance you get, top off your water, because that sound right there, that sloshing sound, that will project if you're moving. And again, it's a target indicator. You don't want to give away your position if you're in an E&E situation, escape and evasion, or just out in the woods. Maybe you're hunting, you got your pack with you, whatever. That's just some things to look at, things I'm adding to my bug out bag. It's a work in progress, Probably there will be things I might have forgotten even up until the day that the shit hits the fan, And days afterwards, I'll probably scavenge things that will look useful, or things that I could trade for things that I might need, different stuff like that. And I might add more stuff to the bag anyway. But those are some pretty helpful hints and tips. In addition to that nifty book I read. And I'm looking at these theories out there, and quick aside about that, more and more, some of them are looking plausible by the day. You've got, I talked about it a couple days ago, you've got the fucking agendas going on between the governments. Who the hell knows what they're up to? You got this threat of the Illuminati infiltrating everything from the media to professional sports to, world religions to this, that, and the other thing. Everything under the sun is hypothetically subversified by this cult, this secret society. Subversified, is that even a word? I don't know. Fuck it. Don't blame me. It's like 5 a.m. I'm not sleeping today. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I observed the moon a little bit more, and it's been popping up in about the same spot. It has shifted over a little bit, but that seems about normal. It's not like a 60-degree jump like the first time I observed it. One thing I am noticing, though, is just seems like every single night, no matter how clear the rest of the sky is, there's a haze over the moon. I personally do think that they are chemtrailing the sky. For what purpose, who knows? Obviously, it's good for concealment purposes, hiding stuff behind the chemtrails. But I don't know what else, whether it's to ionize, to add stuff to the ionosphere to make the HAARP machine more powerful, or whether they're trying to cause global warming or prevent it, or I don't know what. People pointing every which way. But it seems odd that every single night it seems like there's a haze in front of the moon to where even just casual observation, it's a little sketchy. So that's another observation I made. That's pretty much all I got for this morning. In future episodes, I'm probably going to get into specifics on each of the theories I came across. Probably give a list of my top 5 favorites, both in terms of plausibility and in terms of entertainment value, because God, this shit really is entertaining. Like, just listening to some of the stuff that spews out of people's mouths and how other people are capitalizing on it, and it's just ridiculous. Like, I heard about Alex Jones and how he's supposedly a freaking agent for the CIA or the NWO, Illuminati, World Order, whatever. And I think that's hilarious. It could simply be as simple as he found a niche audience and he's exploiting it. It might just be that. He might not be working for anybody but himself. But then again, he might be, some of the things he said seem to be a little bit at odds with other things that he said. So, in either case, I don't listen to him because, when I did listen to him a few times, he just got me all worked up and, not thinking coherently, and I don't know what the fuck that was the deal with that, but there we go. And I'm running on a lot, about 10 minutes over time, so I'm going to cut it off right now. I'm surprised YouTube hasn't shut down my channel yet because I think there's a 15-minute time limit, but I've exceeded that 3 times in a row now. And I guarantee nobody's listened this far in. But if you are, thank you for listening. My name is Joe, and I am a weapon of mass instruction. And I think my next job is to scavenge me some coffee. Good night, everybody. Or good morning. Whatever the fuck.